Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cross Project Council session. Joe cannot make the call today, so I will be your chair. We are the 30th of April, 2024. Do we have any announcements today? So I know that Ben has announcements. Anyone else? Oh, Chris, please.
Yeah, right after this meeting is the OpenJS Standards Group meeting, where we will be joined by Mikhail from the University of Bergen to talk about the newest task group around experiments in programming language standardization.
Wow, amazing.
Something
Super
you're interested
cool.
in, please join us directly after this meeting.
Thank you so much for sharing this, and that sounds really exciting, actually. And it's great to have an announcement from the standards group like that. Awesome. Thank you. Ben, anyone else before we get to you, Ben? Ben.
Sure. I'm just nervous that Claudio is biking.
Me too.
Also
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, really? Are we gonna do the whole call like this?
The bike
This is...
I am worried about what we're going to capture on this recording. All right. Let me just share my screen real quick. Okay, so I try to give the CPC regular updates on where we are in Travel Fund. And we've had an event in London with Node, which is great. And so we're starting to get actuals in, but I just want to kind of keep people up to date on where we are. So let me just walk through this. This slide is the same slide that I presented in the board meeting on Friday. So we've incurred a couple costs related to collaborator summits. That's the second column you see here. I think you can see my mouse. So that's basically t-shirts. And then in terms of the actual community fund, we forecasted our spend around like $11,000 now, right? So these are almost all, well, I would say 90% of this is the Node event that was just in London that are starting to come in. And we haven't gotten everyone's expenses yet, but yeah, I would say that you're tracking to have about 48 grand left for the remainder of the year from that 60, which seems about right for where we are, given we're entering the second quarter.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks for sharing this. Any questions for Ben on this topic?
Cool.
Just curiosity, were those the set amounts there in each category? Are those like hard limits or are those soft limits?
Well, so the answer to that is those are hard. Well, yes, those are hard limits. So we have a budget set for the year, right? It's a hard limit in that if we wanted to increase the community fund budget, it's a board approval. So we'd have to go to the board and that money would have to come from somewhere. I'm not sure
what about like the subcategories within?
Oh, yeah, those were decided as part of the policy at the beginning of the year. So I think the CPC could decide to adjust the ratios for the community fund if they wanted to. But yeah, that's what we decided at the beginning of the year.
All right, cool. Board meeting updates. So it's just
worth mentioning the voting that needs to occur in a couple weeks, Toby.
Yes. So we're waiting for approval of the charter changes that we requested, and those needed to be reviewed because we didn't share them early enough for the board to be able to review them before the voting. And given that there are some other topics that the board is going to vote on, I think these will be included and an asynchronous vote in the next couple of weeks, I suppose. And so I think we'll know more about those by then. I don't think there was anything else from the board that was ready to be shared publicly from the last goal, if I remember correctly. But there are other board members here that are not CPC board members, so if I'm forgetting something, you feel free to share. All good? All right, cool.
The only thing I'll mention is there is some discussion about what the in-kind membership policy should be. So there's a recommendation, I think, that's going to come from myself and Robin to put forward to the board for feedback on that. And so that's just another thing that's happening that's up for discussion.
Good point. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. Absolutely. All right, cool. Let's get to the staff updates. So, we were waiting on legal info for a few things, I think. Process for handling certificate renewals.
Yeah, that's on me just to essentially document what the process is. It's just on my to-do list. But we're actually, let me update this one because we're not waiting on legal info, we're waiting on docs,
On you.
basically.
Fair enough. Do you need, I mean, is this something you could get help for from the broader community, or was this like only information that you have? And okay, fair enough. Out of that list, which I'm just going to paste in the chat here, is there anything else that you can provide an update on? There was requirements for projects releasing internal projects to third-party contributors. That is an interesting one, given sort of like the recent various conversations on security. Maybe we should bring that back one to the CPC. This is 1133 for reference, which is talking about exit criteria for a project. Ben, does this feel like something that sort of would fit some of the work that you've been doing on the Sovereign Tech Fund around project lifecycle, et cetera? Or
It might. I only say that because I'm just familiarizing myself with this issue now. It is just on my like 2 second skim of this issue, it is a scenario that we did not account for, which is a project leaving the foundation. So yeah, that seems like it's probably, if not part of, very closely adjacent to the sunsetting work.
I thought we should add
I
the
mean,
cross-project council label on this again and sort of like make this. It feels like the broader context has changed what this issue actually is about now. This is just not only a legal question. Great. Okay, so I just added the cross-project council label on it, and we'll see how we handle it next week. Briefly on the other ones, any other pseudonymity, easy CLA, requirements for projects ingesting other existing external projects, any news updates on this?
nothing for me.
All right. All right, cool. Moving on, anything on the waiting on staff updates? I know I saw, I'm sharing this here. I know I saw some activity in the nonviolent communication strategic workplace conflict resolution training. I don't know if Robin has any updates on this. And what about the IP policy license exemption for loopback and use on that? None. This really should be a legal question, no? I mean, this is not
Yeah,
only like a,
this last one is.
Okay.
I just need to follow up with Robin on if she's talked with Andy about this yet or not.
Sorry, which last one?
sorry, that is 885. I'm going to remove the staff.
By the way, on the NVC topic, like somebody said they couldn't find a vendor name. We had done in TC39, we had done some legwork in vetting NVC training folks. So we're happy to share notes if that would be helpful at all.
I mean, I think it would because we're still, this is an open issue, and I think Robin was looking into something, but I'm not sure that this went anywhere. And so, yeah, if you have done work and that you can share that work, that would be great.
Okay. I mean, to be clear, these are paid like training folks, consultant types. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember the context of that issue. My recollection is that, yeah, someone had done work for the Node project, and it was a question of whether that work could be reused or not. So I guess
Sorry, Toby, could you repeat the question?
We were talking about issue 1106 about nonviolent communication. And Chris was mentioning that with TC39, they had looked into evaluating different providers, or at least a high-level assessment, and was willing to share this. And I'm just going through the issue, and if I remember correctly, what the issue is the Node Foundation had funded some kind of like initial work on this, and the question was whether that could be reused or not.
Right, but I think the only person in this meeting the only person that would know that is actually not in this meeting, which is Robin.
Yeah, precisely.
Yeah.
So we're essentially going to be waiting on Robin for this again, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
no,
fine.
but like Chris was bringing up the fact that like there was eventually another solution for actually getting some other vendors to do this.
Oh, cool.
And so.
Yeah, I mean, if they can write, on the issue, the vendors that they know or any extra data, that would be wonderful.
Is there something you could share publicly?
Oh,
Chris,
yeah, good idea.
or is this something that
Yeah,
might
I think
be
so.
shared?
I think so. I mean, some of the they were like sort of RFPs basically to these providers. And some of the details might have been specific to the different group, but it still, I think, gives you an idea of like a ballpark. And at this point, they're maybe a little out of date, so the price maybe is probably gone up. But
Sure.
yeah, other than that, I think it's totally fine.
RFPs, you might not, I mean, depending on what the RFP actually says, you might not be able to make them public. So maybe have a look first and then see if you can share them, like how you can share them. And if needed, you could just share them with the foundation or with a private CPC
Okay.
session. I don't know. It
Sure.
depends.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Awesome. Thank you so much. That's really useful. All right. I think we can move on to the actual,
Sorry, Toby,
core-
will you write on the issue that we are waiting for Chris input then, or feedback, just that everyone that is not in the meeting knows what we can expect?
Sure thing.
Appreciate it. Sorry if I'm sounding demanding, I'm just not close to my computer.
No, I know. Chris, could I ask you to actually do that in I think which issue is it now? Is this 8? No, of course it's not this one. All right, hold on a sec.
Sorry, what's the ask?
If you can write down in the issue itself,
What I said.
exactly.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm trying to figure out what the actual issue number is now because it's not.
1106.
Yes, it is. Thank you. And I'm just sharing it in the chat here. All right. I think we can get into the heart of the agenda now. So the first issue is issue 1300, and this is revisiting our policy to become a CPC member. I think we can have a conversation about this now. I also would like to spend a bit of time in the private session discussing this and sort of giving it a little bit more background on this issue. Does anyone want to share anything right now about this?
Yeah. I've had similar discussions in other contexts around GitHub org membership and things like that. And I think that it is a very good question to raise. What access, how is access conflated with membership in the council? And we should absolutely be separating those things and limiting access to only those who need it, such that just becoming a member of the CPC or regular member or whatever is not sufficient to give you access, because there's not a lot of gates on becoming a regular member. I don't think that we should increase the barrier to becoming a regular member at all in any way, because I don't see any, once access is separated from that, I don't see any remaining concern whatsoever, except perhaps reputational. And that's just a sunk cost that if you have that concern, then you wouldn't be merging a typo fix from someone, because it'll make their name show up in the contributors list, and you don't want to accidentally imply that that's meaningful. And the reality is it's not meaningful, and that's on whoever is assigning meaning to it. Just like membership in a GitHub org does not mean anything, and if anyone is using that to trust something, I think that's on them. They've made a mistake, because that's just incorrect. And so I don't think that we should be making it harder for people to participate, especially given how few people participate in OpenJS in any capacity. As long as and this is, of course, all assuming that we've separated out access, because that's a legitimate concern.
Any other comments? I see Chris saying yes. I mean, I think, Chris, you wrote something along the same lines.
Yeah, no, I could 100% agree with Jordan, and probably unsurprisingly based on my comments. I've cut full disclosure here, I'm not a CPC member, so I don't know if it's appropriate for me to be commenting on what should be required or not required, but I'll
This
speak
is
up
an open meeting. It is absolutely appropriate for you to be doing so.
But yeah, I think the problem is, when you're conflating the access with membership. Now, some access is natural to be conflating. Like, for example, there's a CPC repo, and like, okay, you have write access to the repo, that makes sense. But write access to that repo should not be like, there shouldn't be like, NPM packages being published from it or something, where you're truly having a security risk by doing that within the repo itself. So that should be not a huge deal to, be granting access that one could argue is not 100% necessary for folks to have. But anything beyond that really shouldn't be automatically granted. I know there was talk about a mailing list, but whether that or literally anything else shouldn't be automatically granted. And as I said in the issue, not just for the CPC, but for all of the other constituency, the security collab space folks shouldn't have access, because it's a security group, doesn't mean they should have elevated security to anything either. And the same goes even for like whether, governing board or whatever else. That's not good security policy to be automatically granting things. You can have a group that is, somewhat analogous, that's specifically for some security permissions, where you have, okay, maybe they do have 75% of the people in this group also have these elevated privileges, but that's a deliberate decision you should be making, and not sort of an automatic one. That's all.
Yeah, I think those are great points. And thank you both for raising them both like now in
Sorry.
person. Oh, please.
But I do also support things. There are some things in there that you have that I think are healthy to maintaining the group outside of the security posture, which is like, you know, pruning inactive members, and that sort of thing.
And just to be clear, right, I opened an issue because we had a conversation about it in the working session last week, and I just dumped a bunch of things that had been discussed in there. I you know, don't like I'm not defending like all or some of those. But I think that the fact that this led to the realization that you both, you know, said here and in written that we really needed to separate the two concerns. I think that wasn't really obvious to me because I was wondering, like, well, what is the, you know, what does the CPC role give you more than just like being an observer on calls, right? If you don't have these access. But now that I've thought it, you know, that I've thought it through a bit more, I think it's actually like it's a very meaningful difference. And I think it's really important to have to actually separate those two things. Yes, Chris.
No, it sounds good. And in the spirit of that, does it make sense to maybe modify your position on blocking new folks to the CPC to blocking the automatic escalation of privileges as a result of that?
Yeah, I think so, but I don't know like how operationally ready we are to not do the escalation of privilege. And so that's the first thing. I don't exactly know what parts we're talking about. Like, what exactly do we need, right? You know, like what are we talking about? Like the CPC private list, private conversations. Do we have like a private security conversations, which are distinct from like CPC private conversations? It's kind of like all of these different questions that I think we should address. I mean, arguably we can address them like later, but I think it would be important to address them now. And also the question would be like, who, you know, like who, can we have a group thinking about this? Or can we have like maybe a working session on this next week to try to like tease out the, you know, the different needs, for example? Chris.
Just to be clear, I'm not suggesting to you know, defer or delay. I think that's totally fine to put a high priority on that. I'm just suggesting that maybe
Reframing?
no, maybe you could just unblock the folks from joining the CPC, but block them from the escalated privileges.
Yeah, I don't know how to do this. That's the problem. Like, I mean, I literally, I have no idea how this actually works. I have no idea
Well,
what part of it is automated. I don't know.
I think none of it's automated. Ben just makes the changes, but also that I'm not aware of any access that CPC membership gives you other than the ability to participate in the private sessions in these meetings, which is manually enforced. So I feel like there's no reason to block anyone for anything right now because we just maybe want to exercise discretion during the private sessions of these meetings. If any of us feel anyone in here maybe shouldn't be part of some information, and that can be shared privately with Ben or Robin or any of us really, who can then exercise discretion on how to resolve those concerns. But yeah, it's just I just think that like this isn't even a software project where, and even then I would probably say that friction is overkill, that it's better to avoid alienating potential people than it is to worry about a security problem that's never happened yet that we're all aware of. Like not worry, but then it is to obstruct based on that concern, right? Like it's a great conversation to have. I just don't think we should do anything about it until we've had the discussion, including to delay or defer people joining.
So, oh wait, Claudio, did you
Yes,
click and unclick?
Put it down. Yeah.
Okay. Before I give you the speaking baton or whatever it's called, Two quick things. I do want to point out that this actually has been an issue. Like it's not that it hasn't been an issue, it has been an issue, which is why it was brought
in
up.
this group or this organization?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, that seems
And I'm
useful
happy to
context for us
I'm happy
have.
to discuss it in the private section, but not now. Claudio.
Yes, I want to tackle the situation in a different perspective. What what are the reasons for someone to become a CPC member, right? Is it to attend meetings? Is it to participate? Is it to collaborate? I have the feeling that, so right now in the Node.js project, we have a similar debate that is happening about, we have around 86 core collaborators, but very few that actually are actively doing, I'm not talking about just commenting, but all sort of work, on the core of Node.js, be it helping with reviewing, be it helping with giving guidance, giving industry knowledge, giving whatever that means to be a core collaborator. And in my opinion, since I joined the CPC, I've seen a lot of people joining, which is really cool. And I think that we have a lot more people to actually collaborate and to contribute their knowledge and, to help us out and shape a better JavaScript ecosystem. And I also understand that, being a member doesn't mean that you need to be active all the time because we all have a license, etc. Like this is not even what I'm questioning here, but it's more, why become a CPC member? Because if now the benefits of becoming a CPC member is not even being in the private list, not probably even joining private sessions or whatever other security access they might gain, which we have at the moment, then what are the benefits of becoming a CPC member? Rephrasing, why would they join if not just by having the name on the website of the Node.js project and being on the org? Because imagine we have 40 CPC members, and we have a lot of people that are doing a lot of effort, and then it creates this false impression again that wow, the OpenJS Foundation has 40 people working hardly, on cross-project console, and it could, in my opinion, also kind of minimize the value that the CPC has when we have too many members, like in the sense, wow, if they have so many people, like it must be chaos, right? Because how they might organize things, etc. I'm just like throwing random, darts into the question because I don't think that we should only allow, which is not even the case. Like we allow anyone to join the meetings, we allow anyone to comment into GitHub issues, we allow anyone to actually collaborate if they want. So what is the formality of becoming a CPC member if we are going to change for security, reasons, anything? Does it even make sense?
I think that's a good question.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's the private email list, the private sessions of these meetings, and if we ever have a vote within this meeting on a decision, it's the ability to participate in it. But since we usually don't have a vote in this meeting, I think it's more just the first two.
But the votes are also only for the voting members, not even for the regular members.
That's for elections and stuff. But I meant like we might take like a straw poll of the room, and like.
Gotcha.
But we've never done that, so it's just like that's just a hypothetical. I think it's just the private email list and the private sessions, really.
Yeah. To finish before I pass the potato, whatever to Michael. If we deem that the private email list, which so far sometimes have confidential things or things that are highly nature. Now, just an example, HubSpot, we have the issues that a lot of confidential matters, by default, they just leak because it's a huge organization. So I also believe that only allowing people that actually have the interest or actually limiting the people that actually have any reason to be in the private list, which is something that someone commented also on the issue, then we do it. But then again, it goes back, why become a CPC member then? There's two reasons to become a CPC member, but it's just the label, that I'm trying to say. Sorry for my poor wording.
No, but it's an entirely valid point to share. Thank you for sharing it. Paula, you've taking your hand down?
Oh, sorry, I didn't, a little early to do that. I
Oh,
did want to point out that I think it is good to have a separate working session discussion on the topic and get some of the
Okay.
terminology straight for regular member, voting member. I mean, to become a regular member, you come to the meetings and you send a pull request to have yourself added to the list. And I didn't think that that added any additional access, but it's not documented on the site about whether or not you get added to a private email distribution or anything like that. So it's probably good to clarify. And then if that also results in you getting added to a private email distribution, and those are the first people to be informed about a potential security breach, that could mean like early disclosure of activity to, nefarious characters for whatever reason. So it's probably worth a discussion.
All right, cool. So we have a working session topic for next week, which is really, really nice. So I'm very happy about this. Michael, I'll let you make whatever comment you want about this, and then I think we
Yeah.
should move to the next part of the call.
Sure. I wanted to make a couple points. One, our earlier discussion when we were like putting in, we have an open PR to clarify consensus. That's like, let's make sure that the status quo is preferred. Like basically, we should respect the status quo, and we're actually going to make it a 2/3 vote to change things. So I don't think we should be blocking any members until we actually, like, it shouldn't be a default, like, hey, let's just do that. It should be, we continue with the status quo until we actually make a decision to do something different. If we need to expedite that decision, we should do that. But like, status quo should be the status quo. The other part I wanted to add was, like, I think one of the unique things that, certainly the Node project, and I think the OpenJS Foundation was looking to emulate, was we really were more on the trust and assume best intentions. And that was like not just by accident. That was like the way we chose to operate. It was very important for us to be inclusive. And so it's good to have a conversation on this, but like, let's not throw that under the bus because something happened in some other organization. It could happen, like, and like, I'm not saying that these aren't concerns, but like, we've optimized to say the inclusive part is important enough that even if we take some of these risks, we're going to take those risks. So let's not forget that. And like, let's not lose that on a maybe something will happen, right? Or it's the most important. Like, let's look at it from that's important to us. What are we going to give up if we give that up? And what are we going to gain? Like, what are we solidly going to gain? So that's kind of my perspective on this, is like, I can understand people running around. Sometimes I don't understand why they weren't running around concerned before some concrete incident happens, right? Like, this seems to happen every 3 or 4 months. Something happens, everybody runs around, and then it sort of calms down. I prefer we had like a more concerted lower level focus on like this, like, let's incrementally and identify what we think our biggest risks are, and then like actually say, well, like, let's work on those big risks versus being so focused on what could be a small risk in that picture, right? If you know what I mean, like, so that's all I really
Yeah,
want.
absolutely agree. I'll share more context in the private
Sure.
session, because I don't want to share more context now.
Yeah, that might add
all right, cool.
color to it. I'll add color to it, but
Yeah, I will do that. Absolutely. And we'll see. Well, we'll get into that in like about 10 minutes.
Just wanted to add one last thing regarding what some of the open PRs that we have for members. Like, the reason why I think both me, Toby, and others blocked the PR, it was just because we had an immediate concern just for that specific time. But it's not like we wanted to make this like start blocking people to join as a regular thing. Like, I'm going to change, my blocking to approval. It just it was more like we want to discuss this,
yeah,
by no means we want to become an organization, I mean, at least in my opinion, that will just trust people and be skeptical of anyone that wants to join. We just, wanted to bring this up, I think.
Yeah, no, it's always worth to discuss, are we doing the right thing, right? Like, that's what we should just go back to. Are we doing the right thing? and in terms of our values, right? And it's worth rediscussing those things. It just sometimes I'm like sometimes like, okay, let's just make sure we don't act too quickly sometimes, right? And that's all.
No, absolutely. Yeah, let's finish that conversation in the private session. All right, let's try to get, like, is there any, because there's like a few more minutes before we want to move into the private section. Is there anything that we need to really address first? Or, oh, there's the COC team member selection. That's issue 1298. I think that's an important one. Some people have started self-nominating. I did so myself as a alternate member just to get the people started. If I can actually not do this, I would be happy. It would be great if we have more people looking at this, and if we get a good group of representative folks also from the broader community, that would be really nice. So that's 1298. Michael, is your hand up for this, or is it
no,
still
sorry,
up from
I
before?
didn't put it down.
No problem. So nothing more than that. Then, if you're interested in being part of the Code of Conduct team, do self-nominate on that issue. And you can nominate as a primary member, which means that you will actually have to address incidents, or as an alternate member, which means that you're there as backup in case there's not enough people to actually handle the incident, or that people are involved in the incident or have a conflict of interest of any kind, and so cannot be part of the team that handles it. Yeah, and if you have questions about it, I think you could ask on the issue, actually. 1297 is the related issue that is about actually writing down the process of running that selection as we go. So I think we should do this. If people have like concerns or things that they specifically want to note in how we select the COCT members, like have a discussion in that issue would be great. And then I think we should go into 1277. Adrian, if you want to talk to us about the ecosystem sustainability program.
That's a different one, but I could take a lead there.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm sorry. I mixed them up because
Don't
Joe
worry.
did exactly the same on the board the other day. This is
But
really
I can
bad. There are
report on that one
too many
too,
cool
so.
things happening at the same time. This is not. This is. I wanted to hear you, but this is the wrong issue. Which issue is it?
We already closed it, but it was about the ecosystem report, which we already started meetings, and basically we started working toward creating a template to start getting information from our member projects, so we can start creating the materials for the report. We are going to meet every 2 weeks, Mondays. So everybody's invited to help us there. The idea is to create like a two-way channel to communicate with our end users, and really excited about this. So
Wonderful. We should have talked about this in the announcement section. I'm sorry, and I mixed up because I'm on that mailing list, and I got I saw this today, so that's why I got entirely mixed up. Apologies on the ESP. Anything that we want to share? So on 1290, wait, what is it? No, 1277.
Yeah, I think we can share that the board voted on this in our board meeting, and it was unanimous approval, which is great. So excuse me, we have a meeting with them later this week, and Robin's back from PTO to kind of go over final details. And yeah, we'll keep everyone in the loop.
Wonderful. Is there anything for the CPC to do about this? At
I
this
don't
point,
think there's
I mean,
anything
should
at
we?
this time. I don't think so.
So do we
There might be
close
something.
the issue?
Let's keep it open until I have that meeting on Thursday. And if there's any updates from that meeting that are relevant to the CBC, I'll make a note in this issue. If not, maybe we can close the issue.
All right, awesome, wonderful, great work, everyone. This is really, really exciting.
One I wanted to ask about, which isn't on the agenda, 1281, which was the revised consensus, as you properly pointed out, Toby, needed board approval. I think last week was the board meeting.
Yeah,
So
I shared this at
just
the
approved.
beginning of the call, but very briefly.
Sorry, okay. I missed that.
Yeah, we had not shared the actual diff with the board, just the issue number, and the board members didn't see the diff, and so weren't able to vote on it on the to vote on the resolution. But since there's a number of asynchronous voting happening in between the two board meetings, it's going to go with the rest of those, and we're going to vote on them by that time. So
Okay.
it's a little bit delayed because yeah, we didn't share the information clearly enough, I guess.
Okay, so it'll be in the next couple weeks, probably then.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thanks. Okay.
You're most welcome. Yeah, thank you. Ben is saying it's in 2 weeks. And Ben should know because Ben's going to actually run those. All right. Is there like one last issue that we want to talk about before we get into the private session?
Yes. Congratulations to our newly re-elected CPC board of directors.
Oh, yes, indeed. That was such an exciting
Yes.
vote.
Exciting vote, Toby Joe Mateo, re-elected. Thank you for serving a short term so that you could serve a normal term as we get all of our election dates aligned. So yes, congrats to them. We made that announcement to the board on Friday, and yeah, looking forward to continuing to have those folks in the board meetings. It's really great to have that crew present.
Yep, thank you so much. Thank you for voting for the 3 people running for the 3 seats. Really, really appreciate your support, everybody. All right, cool. I think we should wrap this up and go into the private session. Yeah, well,